Good morning, friends, and welcome. Today's task is apples. I'm so excited to get some apples, and these are Honey Crisp, a 25-pound box. I'm going to be canning these in slices with a simple syrup, and then I'm going to be making apple butter because I love apple butter. So we're going to take this 25-pound box, divide it in half, and do half the canned apples and half the apple butter. I'm using the recipes that are in the Ball Book of Canning. This is one of my favorite books, so easy, perfect for beginners. So let's get these washed, peeled. I gotta get my jars washed, so let's get busy canning. We're gonna need to pre-treat these apple slices, so I'm using 3 rounded tablespoons of Fruit Fresh and 2 quarts of water in a bowl. And then when I slice the apples, I will place them in this mixture, and it just keeps them from turning brown. So you do need the Ball Fruit Fresh that you buy in the grocery stores or at Walmart. So the next step, these apples did have a wax coating, so I really want to make sure I got that off. So I'm kind of really scrubbing these under some cold running water to get them nice and clean. Even though I'm going to peel those, I still want to make sure that they get a good wash. The next step is using my apple peeler, and I'm just taking the peel off. I'm not going to core these. I'm going to cut them into wedges, so just using my peeler to get most of that off quickly, and then I'll just take my knife and just go down the sides, cutting these apples and then leaving the core. Now I give the skins and the cores to my chickens. It's a really nice treat. I do know some people make apple scrap jelly with that, but my girls are due for a treat. I am doubling this apple recipe, so in a large stainless steel pot I am using the light syrup, so I need 5.5 cups of sugar and 10.5 cups of water, and you bring that to a boil, and then you add in your sliced fruit. You can see I've kind of quartered these, and once it comes to a boil I added in all of the apples, and then I'm going to give that a good stir and let it sit on the stove and cook until the apples are nice and tender. The apples came to a nice boil. I set a timer for 5 minutes because you do not want to cook these down to mush. So I cooked mine for 5 minutes. And they're ready now to pack in the jars. So I've got my sterilized jars ready to pack, and all you have to do is just scoop the apples right into the hot jars, and then once you get the jars full of apples, then you go back with the syrup and just fill it until it's an inch headspace. So it's just really a very easy process. You don't want to overcook your apples because they are going to cook again in a water bath canner. So just till they're nice and soft, then we're going to debubble all of those apples, making sure I have 1 inch headspace. I did have to go back in and add a little bit more liquid, but for this recipe I was able to double it in the book on page 17 of the Blue Book Guide to Preserving, and I doubled the batch and I got 7 quarts. So I was very excited about that. Okay, once I've wiped off all the rims, made sure there's no sticky residue, I put on my lids and rings, and then they go into a water bath canner. You do not have to pressure can these. Just make sure you have at least 1 to 2 inches of water covering the jars. I bring that to a boil, and then you process those for 20 minutes. Now I am using my pressure canner, but I'm not putting any weight. I'm not even locking the canner down. And there are the beautiful apples ready to eat. So now let's move on to apple butter, which is my favorite. And this is also a very easy process. Now we started out the same way, except I did not have to make a brine to soak these in because it's okay if they turn brown. So I've got my pot filled with peeled and quartered apples. And I had to triple this recipe So I'm going to be adding in all of the water that's required. After I cooked the apples down, just like I did the other process, I'm running them through my food mill, and this kind of creates an applesauce. So I just kept filling my 4-cup measuring cup up and then just running it through that food mill. Now you can see it has kind of made it a nice consistency, a very mild applesauce consistency. And I want to measure this out to make sure I'm doing my ingredients right. So if I triple the recipe, I am going to need 6 quarts of apples, and that is exactly what I had in this pot. So that's why I'm measuring this out, because I want to make sure that I put the right amount of sugar, cinnamon, and cloves in it. So for this recipe, you're going to need a lot of sugar, and I split that up between white and brown sugar. And I will leave the recipe in the description box below, but I did triple this. Then you're going to need some ground cinnamon and some ground cloves. So I'm just pouring the ingredients into my big steel pot, and I'm adding in the cinnamon and the cloves, and that's what gives the apple butter its really good taste. Now, I grew up with apple butter. My grandmother Smith would make biscuits and then smear some apple butter on it, and I just love apple butter. Brings back a lot of good memories. So once all the ingredients are in, then we're going to give it a good stir, mix everything together, put it back on the stove, and then just let it simmer and cook on medium-low until it reduces down and gets thick. Now I let mine cook on medium-low, and I stirred it about every 15 to 20 minutes for 2 hours. And then I got the dark, thick consistency that I wanted. I had my jars in the canner. Again, this is a water bath process, so I'm just sterilizing the jars. I've got those ready nice and hot. Now look how much darker the apple butter is. When you let it sit and simmer, it gets a nice dark color. So I'm just filling my pint jars and leaving a 1-inch headspace, just like you do all of the other canning projects. You have to debubble, wipe the rim, and put the rings on. So this is perfect for beginner canners. If you want to learn how to do this, it's so easy. And you can do applesauce the same way. You just don't have to put all the spices in it if you want plain applesauce. So I hope I've demonstrated how easy it is to put up apples, either apple butter, apple sauce, or apple slices in simple syrup. And look at all of the apple butter that I got from that batch of apples. Some of this is going to be gifts, but we are going to enjoy this on biscuits and toast and just really enjoy apples all through the winter. So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them below. Have a blessed day.